We can get started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our mental health um, Zoom call this morning. We are excited about being here and excited to have our guest speaker, Miss Brittany Young, with us to present us today on life after COVID and what that looks like for us. And I know that we have many questions and let's just get right to it. So I'm going to give you a little introduction about our speaker. Miss Brittany Young is a licensed clinical social worker with a passion for teaching and developing others. Brittany is always trying to assist communities with understanding and coping with trauma. When she is not busy facilitating trainings and developing the skill sets of other clinicians, she can be found spending time with her family. Brittany and the family loves their dog, Zulu, cheering on the Washington Redskins football team, is always in her heart, kickboxing, completing crossword puzzles. Miss Brittany has earned her BA in psychology from the University of Penn State. I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? Penn State University, and a master's of social work from Morgan State University. Brittany is a Washingtonian. She grew up here in Northeast DC and has been serving her community in multiple capacities for over 12 years. And just to add to that, I know Miss Brittany Young from a previous employment that I had, and I'm very excited to have her here to present with us. I've had the opportunity to sit in some of her presentations, and all of us know that everybody hates those Zoom trainings. Get on the Zoom call and it's like cut your camera off and just kind of tune out, but you present. Well, I will say that you are in for a treat this morning. It won't be one of those just boring calls. She is very excited. I enjoyed all of her Zoom calls, or anytime we were in a meeting or training with her. It was always very engaging. So I encourage you all to be attentive, to enjoy, to interact, ask questions. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Young.
Well, thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all today. So I'm going to share my screen. And as Ms. Williams said before, I am the type of presenter that you guys are going to be engaged. I'm not going to read to you all because that's no fun. You have to be thoroughly interactive, and you all have a certain level of knowledge that you can share with me, and it's an exchange, right? So I'm going to definitely ask you to ask questions. I am not the type of presenter that you have to wait till the end of the presentation. I want you to get it off your chest while you have it right then and there. And we're just going to really share information. But most importantly, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I like to have these type of presentations and just have these dialogues so that people can really understand mental health, mental illness, mental wellness, what those different categories mean, and just wondering after COVID, what does that mean overall? So Mental Health Awareness Month, if you know someone that is struggling with mental health, there's just going to be some resources at the end of the presentation. Definitely, if individuals have employment, I would always ask them to seek out their EAP, their Employment Assistance Program, for resources. But there's a lot of resources we have in this new technology advanced world that are at our fingertips. So definitely have individuals seek out the services, get what they need, and really get just understanding the overall understanding of mental health. So there is a quiz that I want you guys to take just to get a really general array of you guys' understanding of mental illness, mental health, and what it means. Because for some, it could mean something very severe. For others, they may not even know that there is an issue or a problem on the horizon. So if you could go to this link here, there is a link for Google Docs. It will prompt you to do a quick 10-question quiz. Really, we're just having fun just to really assess you all's knowledge about mental illness, mental health, and really just kind of get a general overview of some of the things that are put out there in society. And we'll discuss some of the responses, some of the things you may not have known, some of the things you did know, and then the in-between. So I'll give you guys about 5 minutes. And when you all are predominantly finished, when the group is finished, we will go over some of the responses. And you guys will come off mute and let me know, hey, I finished, I'm good, or you can drop it in the chat so I know to move.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could drop it in the chat so we can just
okay.
on it. Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second.
And if you are on your cell phones joining us today, you are able to still access the chat, access this link from your cell phone. You would just have to, depending on what kind of phone you have, at the bottom of your screen, it should have a little chat box, and you just tap on that and you should find the link right in there. You'll be able to tap on the link and it should take you directly to that link.
Okay, I'm gonna drop it in the chat right now.
Thank you. I'm done for mine.
Okay.
Yep, I am submitted on N.
I have as well.
Excellent, excellent.
So I'm done. This is Joanna.
Submitted. Cedric.
Okay, we got about 2 more minutes and then we'll go over the results.
Right, just really. Hey.
Yeah. Oh. Oh.
One more minute.
Say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Excellent.
I have received the paper that you sent out.
Okay. It looks like we got a good majority of the responses here.
Miss Young, you are all right. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I realized that. Thank you. So it looks like we got most of the responses completed in the Google Docs, and we're going to go over the responses that you guys completed. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see.
And while you're sharing your screen, Brittany, I would like to welcome all of residents who have joined the call. We are excited to have you here. Thank you so very much for taking some time out of your morning to join and to get some knowledge about mental health and how we can move forward after this pandemic that we have gone through the last 2 years.
Right.
Okay.
Wonderful. So the first question stated, poor mental health increases the risk for long-lasting physical conditions, such as A, heart disease, B, stroke, C, cancer, D, all of the above. A resounding 100% of you all picked D, all of the above, which is correct, because we know that mental health issues that go for a very extenuating amount of time and they are not addressed, it impacts you, in so many different ways. Like, we know, stress, anxiety, different things like that. And due to the pandemic and just all of the different financial burdens, family burdens, not being able to see one another, all of these things really increased anxiety and depression for a good amount of people during the course of the pandemic. All right, number 2, mental illness. We're divided here, okay? Most of you all picked somewhere between very common and C, fairly common. Actually, the correct answer is C, it's fairly common. So 1 in 4 Americans have experienced some level of mental illness or mental health and impact to their mental health. So that's approximately about 50 million people, which is very significant. So if you walk into a grocery store, you count every 4th person, not necessarily experiencing mental illness, but just to show you how broad it can be. And it can impact anyone. It doesn't have a face, you know, from the person that is homeless on the street to someone that's a top executive. Mental illness is very common in our society. Number 3, suicide is the blank leading cause of death among people ages 15 to 34 in the United States. So here we're kind of spread out as well. The correct answer actually is D. It's the second leading cause of death, which is very powerful, right? You all, like, that really tells us in the communities that we serve what we need to be doing, the type of services we need to be providing, the type of things that we really need to look at, because this is our young people. What message is being sent in society that tells them, 1, suicide is the answer. It's the second leading cause of death. To be young and to be in that demographic lets you know there is something about mental illness and really communicating mental wellness and mental health early on really makes a big impact. For that question, did some of you guys, were you surprised, or are you kind of in the field knowing just personal stories, just different things like that? Because you guys, for the most part, picked that portion. So just a minute or two about discussion, because this is pretty significant and I want you guys to really communicate this, because it's mental health awareness to our entities, our external partners and just within our communities. But the question, did you guys really know this for research? Have you been exposed to this, in the unfortunate impact in your communities? What led you all to this particular answer?
I'll answer with, I just kind of really assumed, because I know that mental health is a serious matter. And I know that oftentimes we don't typically look at mental health as serious as we should. And I sort of kind of guessed it a little bit, not really knowing that that was the real answer. Just from based off of what I knew, I would just assume, okay, well, yeah, suicide is the second leading, cause of death. But to actually hear you say that was the correct answer, and then I'm looking at the ages, that's a wow for me. So for me, that kind of, it's a little heartbreaking. So it stings a little to just kind of know that that's a real fact.
Absolutely. All right. Number 4, mental illness cannot be treated. As we know, that's definitely false. Okay. We can always treat mental illness. There are a variety of ways to treat mental illness. There are so many different resources at our fingertips. So understand that it can be treated, okay, over time. There are mental illnesses like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia that are lifelong, but they can be treated, but you may always have that diagnosis. Number 5, mental health is resounding 100%. This is correct. An important part of overall health and well-being. That is absolutely, it's comprehensive, as we know. All right, number 6, how do you help someone you know with mental health concerns? So 92% of you all said all of the above. That is definitely the correct answer. You're combining all of these, right? Even if you don't know all the facts about mental illness, mental health, it's important to at least educate and really communicate to someone that you know that has mental health or mental illness concerns. Number 7, people with mental health concerns are violent. 92% of you all said false. That is correct. There's a lot of research that will have you skew your perception of what mental illness is and violence connected to people that have mental illness diagnoses. There are cases we've seen across society where people that have undiagnosed mental illness go on to harm others, but that's not the norm and that's not the case. And there's a lot of literature and research out here in society that will show you that they're no more violent than a person that just wakes up one day and does something and makes a poor decision that leads to consequences. So I'm glad that you all really understand that, because I don't want people with a mental illness diagnosis to be mislabeled improperly. All right, number 8, half of all mental illness occurs before a person turns. So here we are divided again, right? The correct answer is A, 14 years old, okay? So 21% of us got that correct, but hey, this is a quiz just to test your knowledge, but that's significant, right? The fact that you can be diagnosed with a mental illness before the age of 24, and it can start as early as 14 years old. That really speaks to some of the things that our young people are exposed to in their youth, what they're experiencing, just the trauma that they may have been through just before turning 14. I mean, that's a lot to unpack in adulthood, but that's something that we really want to kind of pay attention to, because it shows the type of services that we will need in a trajectory in the future, so we can kind of predict some of the issues that they may have. Number 9, this is a numbers game. We're definitely divided here, but lo and behold, I've done this presentation prior, and this was prior to the pandemic. So now mental illness is going to cost Americans a little bit more, right? Because we just came out of the pandemic. So the number back in, I think, 2019 used to actually be A. So you guys would have been correct. However, due to just the longevity of the pandemic, just the mental toll that it's taken on people, it's gotten ticked up. So second runner up, 225 million. That is how much it has cost America, just due to the impact of the pandemic. So excellent forward thinking. So that means we have a big gap for services to help individuals that have gone through a lot over the past 2 years. And then the last question, question 10, 100% correct. Several factors is what causes illness. There is no one or specific answer. So excellent job, you guys. Any questions about that quiz? And then I'll shift back to the presentation as I take any questions if you have any.
I do. I have a question. After, taking the quiz, and it kind of breaks down some of the logistics of where we are in regarding mental health, but can you explain to us what exactly mental health is and what causes mental health problems?
Absolutely, Ms. Williams. I have that in my presentation.
Okay.
And I will definitely answer that question. And if I don't, you guys could definitely hold me accountable. But I'll definitely have that in the presentation in the course. I think it's coming up on slide 9. So just bear with me and we will definitely jump into that and dissect that all the way. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to share my screen and jump right back into it. Okay, so in looking at just some of the things that we'll learn today, we'll look at mental health and COVID. We'll really dive into mental illness, some of the signs, how to kind of process life after COVID-19, understand how mental illnesses are treated, because once you know that there is a issue or a problem, what are the steps to take after that? And just talk about some strategies and then some resources that are here in DC for just informational purposes, to make the next step, to make that connection, to make that link, to get the services that are necessary for anyone that is in need of services. So we get so much information from social media, right? From the news outlets, the many news outlets. Some people watch Fox, some people watch CNN. We just have all this information at our fingertips in our televisions, in our living room, just everywhere. We're inundated, right? The CDC comes out with some more information and things are just always constantly changing, right? And then we have Google, that's at everyone's fingertips because everyone, for the most part in society, predominantly has cell phones now. So what do we do with all these sources of information and what's going to happen next, right? Because every time we have a decrease in cases, people go out, oh, things are great. We know summer is on the precipice, so people are definitely going to be out. They're tired of being in the house. But what does that mean in terms of COVID and what's going to happen next, right? All right. Okay, so we're often getting mixed messages. It's safe to go outside. It's not safe to go outside. We can be around people. We can't be around people. It's just so many different levels of your stress going high and then decreasing. It's just like a roller coaster. But what do we know? So the data shows us that the health risks for COVID-19 right now are not significant enough for people to change their behavior and go back to the way it was lockdown time in 2020, right? A lot of people are now vaccinated, so they feel more comfortable to move around freely. There's just that youth population that's like, they don't care either way. They're going outside. They want to stop feeling kind of confined, stressed to being on a lockdown or being controlled, right? And then in general, and I think this is overwhelming so for most people, they're just tired of the pandemic in general. Like, I don't want to hear the word pandemic. I don't want to see it. I don't want to breathe it. Like, they're over it, right? What we do know is that Omicron is the dominant variant right now. So they're optimistic because of the fact that the cases have slowly went on a decline. Things seem to be stable. And then they just monitor the trends, right? So we have seen over the past 2 years that when there is an increased wave of the disease, it's usually during like the cold months, right after everyone has already gone out and they're like, everything is all signs of go. But you just have to make sure that you're just practicing the 3 C's. And what are the 3 C's, right? You just stay away from closed spaces that have poor ventilation. You stay away from severely crowded spaces, right, with too many people. And you try to avoid very, very close contact situations. And those type of things are just what we know, what's been tested, tried, trued. You know that it works for your cohort, your family, your neighborhood, right? So what do we need to know, right? We just need to know that there may be another variant because that's just the trend of how things are when we go back to being kind of around people and going outside. Sometimes the cases do rise, but the health officials are definitely on top of it in terms of communicating some of the trends, communicating some of the things that are working, and communicating the things that are not working, right? But they're shifting towards calling, COVID-19 an endemic, okay? So what is an endemic, right? We hear these terms, we don't necessarily know, what does this mean? What doesn't this mean, okay? So an endemic, well, first let me ask, anyone on the call, do they happen to know what an endemic means in their own words?
The ending of a pandemic. That's what it sounds like. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
Okay. This is
Anybody else?
an informational piece. So we're just going to talk about it and have some dialogue.
Good morning. I think it's working on the end, trying to work on towards ending it or possibly lowering the statistics.
Okay. Anyone else before I provide you with the definition that the health officials have developed? Okay. So the terminology endemic, what that means is there's going to be a consistent presence of the virus in our society, and the level of infection rates may vary. So it can come and it can go. It's up, then it's down. So some endemic examples, the flu. Everybody's familiar with the flu. It's been around for ages, right? We know about it. There's a flu vaccine. Health officials communicated taking the flu vaccine to reduce your rate of possibly getting COVID. So as we know, with the flu, sometimes in the winter cases, there's an uptick, right? And then with the flu in the summer, it goes down. So that's what health officials are saying that COVID-19 will now reflect. So in your thinking, now you can kind of navigate, okay, well, the flu, there is plenty of information about the flu, things that you can do to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, family, and communicate this to the people in our community. So that is just the kind of how the wheels are turning, moving in that direction towards an endemic, right? And understanding that, of course, now comes in a flurry of emotions, right? Because we were so on guard 2 years ago, but now things are slowly getting relaxed and rolling back slowly but surely. So I asked you to really have like a measuring stick, right? For your emotions, because we get inundated with information and then it may shift. We get another pile of information and and then it shifts, and then it's compacted, and we have to always unpack this information that's given to us. So a terminology that I use oftentimes, just in the work that I do it with my kids personally, is like green, yellow, go. In most societies, green, go, good. Think of the traffic signal, right? Yellow, we're gonna proceed with caution. We're gonna slow down. And then red, not good, stop, don't proceed forward, right? And this is really a measuring stick for our emotions. Life after COVID, we have to develop some type of skills to really help us understand all of the information that's coming at us, okay? So think of that in terms of your daily lives, right? And you don't have to answer. This is just for you to process at your own time. But where in the pandemic or just life after COVID have you found yourself in a red space where you're like, okay, I don't want to hear anymore. I'm over it. Just stop. You're closed off to the road. Or yellow, you're kind of in the middle. You want to know more, but you're really like, not too much. Or green, you want to soak up all the information, but you're just like, give me more, right? So think of that green, yellow, red, caution in terms of your emotions and your mental health, because life after COVID is going to have its ups and downs and things may change. So this is just something that I found online. However, you guys come off of mute and just share with me things you've either seen personally or just overall in society that have forever changed since the impact of COVID-19.
I wanted to give Miss Luba a chance to ask a question if she has her hand raised.
Okay.
Do you still want to ask a question, or did you want to just share a few things that have forever changed in your society that you see, or did you want to just answer a question that you had previously?
Hello,
Yes.
I want to know, how can you recognize a person have a mental problem?
Okay, so you want to know how to recognize that. Okay.
Yeah.
We're on slide 6. So we have 3 slides where I break down signs and symptoms of mental illness. So if you just hang on with me, I will give that information. But I love that you guys are really excited about really understanding mental illness, signs and symptoms. But excellent question. And Mr. Williams, I meant to ask you, for the purposes of the presentation, my chat box is closed. So if anybody has their hand up, just definitely interrupt me and jump in there so I can answer the questions. I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So some of the things that have forever changed in society definitely is mental illness, mental health. It has been barely impacted, right? Some people feel a lot of stress on their careers, right? Because of just the changes, having to shift to remote work, having to balance family. Like when I was working at home, Ms. Williams can say, like some days I would say, like my kids are right here because we're all working together. You just got to balance things out, right? And you got to make do with what you have. But it really impacted people's stress levels. Like you're just feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling like there's no separation between work and home life, like the boundaries are very blurred. There was just a big impact, right? And some people felt really isolated. They feel really, really anxious all the time, extremely overwhelmed. There were a lot of impacts that have forever changed since COVID-19 showed up March 2020. So some of the after effects, right? This was just a poll completed by the Pew Research Center, and they just did a survey of individuals in the United States, and they just kind of talked about some positive or negative impacts of COVID-19 and how their lives have been affected, and just in different areas. So as you see, negatively, their personal relationships took a deep dive. How they were able to spend their free time. Maybe free time wasn't even an option anymore. Physical, mental health of themselves or others. Some politics, safety precautions have negatively impacted them. their jobs or the jobs of people they know, and of most importantly, finances, the economy, just overall. So these are really big impactful things that have forever changed us because it really shook us up. It provided us COVID-19 before life. Everybody was just on a path. They just had everything figured out. But then this pandemic comes and it shakes up everything. It really has us really looking at things differently. Do I have finances? Do I have any emergency savings? Whatever the case may be, and how it impacted you in life, it really had people really on edge overall, which significantly impacts their mental illness. So as I say throughout the presentation, remember that measuring stick, right? That traffic signal, green, yellow, red. I do this with my son. I say, hey, did you have a green day? And he knows what green, yellow, red. And then I know how to then approach him and really support him depending on how he responds, right? It's always about how you're feeling, right? Just expressing and communicating and verbalizing. Maybe people aren't really big at verbalizing. So really understanding, okay, I just need to write some stuff out to get it off my chest. And understanding your triggers, really knowing this is a sore spot for me and I gotta really understand how to process that when it's necessary to process it, because we still have to go to work, we still have responsibilities, and we still have to be motivated to do the things that we need to do. All right, finally, slide 8. What is mental illness, right? So mental illness, Webster's dictionary may have this own definition. If you go on the Mayo Clinic, there's so many different definitions, but really it's really understanding that someone's thinking, their mood and behavior has been significantly impacted, okay? Mental illness severely will change how they relate to others. So one day, someone may be able to articulate their thoughts, and then other times they may not. And they just want time to be alone. They may need to be isolated. They may be experiencing depressive episode. Some others may have extreme irritability and can function one way, and then it may shift very rapidly. And it definitely impairs their ability to either problem solve in a social setting around others, in the work environment, or within family. So this could be making sure that kids get up and go off to school in the morning. There may be a significant impact on their motivation, their energy level, their ability to just get up and do what someone else that doesn't have a mental illness can do organically, right? Mental illness is definitely derived from genetics, environmental things that happen, stressors, the pandemic, right? Someone prior to the pandemic may not have ever been diagnosed or experienced mental illness, but post-pandemic, now there's a rise of diagnosis of anxiety disorder, depression, so stuff like that. How many people, and you don't have to share personally, but how many people have seen that, whether it's in their family, with friends, a change in someone that was close to you or a loved one, the pandemic personally impacted them, or you see a change in their attitude or their behaviors?
I have.
And it's very significant because it really changes, it really changes someone. And sometimes it's just the education and understanding how it's impact them and getting them the resources necessary to help improve their overall well-being. All right, so mental illness versus mental health. So I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison because oftentimes, even the literature that's out in society, there is an overlap of mental illness and what mental health means. I would like to get some volunteers just to read, and it doesn't have to be in any particular order, just each bullet, one person at a time, go over the signs of mental illness. Because I got to get you guys to get engaged. You guys are a quiet bunch, so I got to wake you guys up. So
Okay.
just one at a time. Ms. Williams, if you want to call on people because you know them personally.
I was getting ready to say, I don't want to have to call on nobody. But I would like to give people a chance to volunteer themselves.
Sure, Cinquetta, this is Scotty. I can read the first one if that's okay, under signs of mental illness.
Thank you, Scotty.
You are welcome. Eating or sleeping too much or too little.
Pulling away from people and usual activities.
Having low or no energy.
Feeling numb or like nothing matters.
Having unexplained aches and pains.
Feeling helpless or hopeless.
Irritability, anxiety, or feeling depressed.
Smoking, drinking, or using drugs more than usual.
Feeling unusually confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, or scared.
Experiencing severe mood swings that can cause problems in relationships.
Having persistent thoughts and memories you can't get out of your head.
Thinking of harming yourself or others.
Inability to perform daily tasks like taking care of your kids or getting to work or school.
Excellent. Thank you all. I really appreciate that. So now we're going to juxtapose signs of mental illness to those of mental health and wellness. So if you guys could just go through those signs.
Positive mental health allows people to
Realize.
Sorry, go ahead, Jonah.
Okay, realize their full potential.
Cope with the stresses of life.
Work productively.
Make meaningful contributions to their communities.
Ways to maintain positive mental health include
Getting professional help if you need it.
Connecting with others.
Staying positive.
Getting physically active.
Helping others.
Getting enough sleep.
Developing coping skills.
Excellent. Thank you. So now you guys can take away at least one thing if you learn nothing from the presentation, the difference between mental illness, right? Because it's going to be something that you physically see, or you notice a difference in someone's patterns or behaviors or how they just approach things in the morning, versus mental health and wellness, right? You'll see a difference in their ability, because having positive mental health trickles down to the people around you, believe it or not, and your close-knit circle, like family, friends. So oftentimes people use the terms interchangeably, and still the research and literature has it, well, mental health can still be labeled mental illness, but these are the definite distinctions. And I want you all, because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, to really be able to articulate these to the people around you so they really understand the difference between they call mental illness versus mental health. Any questions about this?
I don't have a question, but I definitely have a comment, because when you first put this up on the screen, I would like to say that I really appreciate that, because I didn't really understand or know the difference between mental health and mental illness. So to see it in front of me really helps me to understand, where I am personally in my life, how to move forward in my career, or whenever I'm assisting a resident or whatever. So thank you for that, because it really puts some things in perspective for me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to look at how is mental illness diagnosed and treated.
Before we move there, will we be able to get, I was thinking the same thing too, Sharon, will we be able to get a copy of the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the comparison. Hi, I'm invited by Cinquetta Williams. Thank you for this. What was the signs of the mental illness made me think about Chesley, the Miss America who recently committed suicide. And that was actually a distant cousin of mine. And what happened with her, nobody, the people that were close to her, they still didn't see it. Her mom knew those patterns, but that was like the only person she told. I don't know if this is the place to bring that up, but that made me think of that. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I'm sorry for your loss, because the thing with suicide, people often think that it can be very clear, the signs, the symptoms, right? But oftentimes individuals that have made up their mind that that's the only way out, they can still appear, in a social setting. They may still get up and work out in the morning, but they have a plan. And as a social worker, I always articulate to my clients, I maintain their confidentiality at all times, but at any point in time, if they convey a plan, like I'm going to get up, go outside and walk in front of a bus today. That's a very clear plan. You can visualize that, they visualize it, and they know that's what I'm going to do at the end of the day, right? So they often have a plan, and then unbeknownst to everyone around them, they're still functioning, but they've made up their mind. Now, someone that's close, like her mom, knew some of the intricacies, so they know, okay, she's not reaching out as much, or she's been really, really mopey lately, or just some personal things. And that's why it's so important when we are around family members and friends and we notice small, slight changes, but it's over an extended period of time, that we reach out and we just give them like a loving, hey, I've been noticing some things the past couple of weeks. I want to come over. Sometimes with depression, is not the person sobbing in the bed or weeping uncontrollably. It's they can't get out of bed and do the dishes. So one of the treatment plan goals may be, you have fictive kin, a play cousin, a play brother, a play mom, grandma, whoever, come over and just do your dishes, because that helps you. They lay out some clothes for you, or they do your laundry. Simple stuff that can really, for a depressed person, really feel so monumental, like, oh, that's a hill to climb. Something so basic can get them to say, oh, wow, that person cares about me. And all you did is just go over there and fold some clothes. Something so simple, right? You took them a cup of coffee, something simple. But we do have to be mindful. And that's why I'm so glad Ms. Williams had me come in to just provide just a little information about what it looks like in the background. And then, of course, if you need to know more information, there's definitely a host of resources within access at your fingertips. And that's the beauty of technology. But thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
We do have a question.
Go ahead.
One, well, two, because I have someone who shared, that's here in the room with me, who shared they did have a plan at one point. Okay. And so my question is, what do you do, or how do you assist a person who has a plan? And then the question that is in the chat is, what if the plan isn't shared with anyone?
Okay, so two-part answer. Part A, if they have a plan and they share it with you, anyone that is attached to that person is now considered a mandated reporter. You don't have to go to college to be a mandated reporter. You don't need a fancy degree. You can be anyone from a custodial person to a professor. as long as that person has communicated that to you and you work within that realm or within that vicinity, you're now considered a mandated reporter. What does that mean? A mandated reporter by law, once you're given this information where a person communicates a plan to you, this is often enacted in schools, hospitals, everything down to a rental office, someone that is around people and understands this person is communicating this. One, you want to remain with that person. So that may be via Zoom, text message, phone call, in person. And you want to say, okay, I really want to support you right now because it seems like you have a lot going on. Can you just talk to me? And you should be kind of problem solving, whether that means communicating with your superior to call 911 because that person may make a decision that is irreversible. And as that person in the room, in the space, in vicinity, is your job then to elevate them and get them the help that's necessary. And that will be the professional evaluating to see, do they need to be hospitalized? Do they need to go to an urgent care facility? Do they need to be involuntarily hospitalized? That health professional will take it a step further. But never ever let anyone out of your sight that has an active plan that's verbalized to you, because they could make a decision that is irreversible and impact everyone within an arm's length. Second question, if it is something that's not verbalized, unfortunately, we can only work off the information that's given to us, right? It's unfortunate. I wish there was a very concrete answer, but if someone is nonverbal and has a plan, all we can do as professionals is just notice different signs. If that person is a resident that calls you every week and comes to your office or reaches out via email or whatever the case may be, and we notice a dip or a decline, let's do our due diligence just to do a wellness check. Like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a couple of days. I'm just, you bring them some coffee or something just to say, hey, I'm here for you if you need to talk, and I can connect you to a step further. But if they are nonverbal, there is not anything that you can physically do because you don't have that concrete information in front of you. But you can definitely reach out. You can definitely give them the resources at the end of this presentation that can connect them to health professionals that can do a deeper assessment and provide them the services that they need. So mental health, mental illness is that weird space, right? Because we have diabetes screenings, right? We got screenings for high blood pressure. We got screenings for cancer. We have all these different screenings. But when it comes to mental illness, there's not one specific one that says, okay, you have depression, you have bipolar disorder. It's not like a yay or nay. It's a series of assessments, right? So there's not a specific medical test for mental illness, right? But a lot of times some people notice some things over a period of time and they're like, you know what? I think I need to elevate this. I'm going to talk to my doctor. And then the doctor will make the referral to like a mental health entity. But how you diagnose mental illness is, there's a book. It's a very thick book because it has a various amount of mental illness diagnosis. And it's called the American Psychiatric Association Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. And mental health professionals, which are counselors, psychologists, and social workers like myself, ask a series of questions from that resident or consumer. And from that self-reported information, we then are able to render a diagnosis, okay? But there's never a one size fits all. So what may look like bipolar disorder in one person can be totally different in the other. Genetics play a part in it as well. However, there are treatment options that are definitely readily available, medication, counseling, and just social supports and just general education, okay? The specific recommendations sometimes that a psychiatrist or psychologist, counselor, or social worker may make: therapy, case management, medication. There's a facility on 35 K Street that's for urgent care needs, for very, very urgent needs. of course, hospitalizations and support and peer groups. So how do you cope with the different changes, right? COVID-19 is here. It's not necessarily going anywhere, but cases have definitely decreased, right? But if you feel that your anxiety or just you have fears, you're hopeless, any of those type of things, you're feeling isolated or unsettled, there's always the basics, right? We build a network. If your family's not necessarily here, then an external support network, right? It could be coworkers, it could be neighbors, it's whomever is there in your support corner to support you. Definitely, I'm really big on self-care. I go to kickboxing class about 3 or 4 times a week. It lets out frustration in all areas, but it definitely helps with endorphins to decrease stress levels because we're always on deadlines. We gotta make this, we gotta be mom or supports or just all the different things that life present, right? On top of the fact that COVID-19 is not going anywhere, right? Always some deep breathing. It never takes anything from you to just sit at your desk, have a couple of breaths of deep breathing from 1 to 10. I have grounding techniques that I've shared in the past where you really orient yourself to kind of space and time. That may be 5 things that you see, 4 things that you smell, 3 things that you can touch, and 2 things you may be able to feel. And all of these different things are things that counselors and social workers use to help with clients that need additional supports, okay? And of course, taking care of your body. What you put in your body is what you get out. That's always important. Health and wellness is a comprehensive piece. It impacts the mental, but definitely the physical. And of course, if at any point in time, this is overwhelming to the point where you're like, I need someone that specializes in this, seek out mental health resources. So some community resources within the community, very accessible. For emergency services for children, there is an entity through Catholic Charities called it's called CHAMPS, Children and Adolescent Mobile Psychiatric Services. They provide on-site immediate help to children facing a behavioral or mental health crisis. They go to the home, they go to the school, wherever you are, community center. Services are specifically geared toward children ages 6 to 21. They are on call 24 hours, 7 days a week, okay? The phone number is there, and then I can also provide you guys with that information if you need it. For individuals in DC who are seeking behavioral health services or supports, there is a gamut of community-based providers in DC from Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, all over. And if you contact, it's called Access Helpline through the Department of Behavioral Health Services. There's a 1-800 number, and they can connect you with a behavioral health professional who will guide you through the entire process from intake to the end. And I think, yeah, that's it. General questions, comments, anything of that nature, I can take those now.
I wanted to just briefly thank you very much for joining us. I know that it has been a good time for me. I've enjoyed every moment. I've learned something new today. I want to remind everybody that this is a safe space. If you are facing mental health issues, if you know someone who is dealing with mental health, or you're unsure, you think you need a therapist, you're not sure if you need one. I've thought about talking to somebody, but I don't know about how to go about it. You can definitely send me a direct message, and I will make sure that we connect you with some resources. Ms. Young, I wanted to ask you if you are open to for us to be able to refer people out to you, or if you have, I know that you just gave us some resources, but if someone comes in and asks, if for a therapist or someone, resource, is it okay to give your information out? If you can please drop your information in the chat, if you don't mind, your contact information, so that if anyone on the line here is looking for a therapist or want to talk to somebody who can lead them, if you just like Miss Young and you feel that she's a perfect fit for you, feel free to contact her. She will be putting her information in the chat. If you all have any questions, we are at time now. We just a little bit, about 3 minutes over.